When the suspect is smarter than the detective. Okay.
When police discover the most gruesome murder they had ever come across in the small town of
Bro,
Clyde,
it's
Ohio,
always the most something
one
with you, bro.
detective in particular was determined to track down the depraved killer.
I ain't gonna lie, this nigga looks suspicious already. This nigga look like he did something. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Why you looking at me like that, cuh? Nah, I'm playing.
However, the ghastly scene would not be the only shocking revelation in a case plagued by police corruption, where it seemed that an unhinged obsession placed blame on a group of innocent suspects, all while overlooking the monster hiding in plain sight, eventually landing a detective behind bars. The following interviews and interrogations have never been seen or heard before. They've been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed attorney, a licensed clinical psychologist, a former licensed professional counselor, and a licensed professional counselor.
Why he became a former, though?
Emergency? I'll be over there in about 10 minutes to give you information about the woman that was murdered over there in Clyde.
Heather Bogle was a devoted young mother working a graveyard shift at the local Whirlpool factory to support her 5-year-old daughter. It was a means to an end, as she was also pursuing a career in nursing in order to better support herself and her little girl. On April 9th, 2015, surveillance footage captured Heather leaving the Clyde facility at 6:17 a.m. No one could have ever imagined that this would be the last time Heather would be seen alive.
Damn.
The crime itself was unthinkable, but even more mind-blowing was the tangled web of deception that would be unraveled during the course of the investigation. It was the type of case where nothing was as it appeared to be. Heather had a history of depression. Just 2 years prior, she'd allegedly attempted to take her own life and was prescribed the drug lamotrigine. Knowing this, after she went missing, her mother feared that another attempt may have been made, and a frantic search quickly ensued. It would only be one day before Heather's loved one's worst fears were confirmed. On April 10th, police located Heather's vehicle outside the Somerton Apartments on Hickory Street in Clyde, Ohio, prompting officers to believe that she might have been inside of the complex. However, they quickly learned that this was sadly not the case. They never anticipated that while searching Heather's car, they would open the trunk to find the missing woman's lifeless body resting inside. Authorities were barely able to stomach the horrendous wounds that Heather had endured, including various bruises and marks among her legs, arms, and face, indicating that someone had mercilessly beaten her. Not only this, but shockingly, her hair had been cut off at the scalp, and her fingernails were shaven all the way down to the cuticles.
Nigga, she
had
tortured?
marks around her wrists and ankles, signifying that she'd been bound and tied. Ultimately, her cause of death was determined to be 2 gunshots to her back, which punctured vital organs in her chest.
Bro, what?
Defensive wounds found on Heather's hands told investigators that, despite the horrific attack, she fought for every last second of her life.
Mom.
Along with this, it was determined that her Galaxy Samsung cell phone, purse, a set of keys, and Whirlpool work shirt were all missing. The police, too stunned to comprehend the horrific sight before them, were now on a manhunt for the mysterious killer. But, unbeknownst to them, their window of time was closing by the second.
Why was it closing by?
Still, they had a lead. Heather had been facing a rather tumultuous season in her life. She was in the middle of a devastating breakup with an ex-girlfriend, Carmela Badillo, and the relationship hadn't necessarily ended on good terms.
Badillo?
Both of the women had met during their time at Whirlpool, and they officially began dating in 2014.
Okay.
Throughout the romance, the couple would often fight over various subjects, but at the forefront were Heather's supposed allegations of infidelity against Carmela. It wasn't long before their issues would create a permanent rift between the two, and the year-long relationship would come to an end just 3 days before Heather's disappearance.
Damn.
In texts recovered through Heather's phone company on April 8th, the fury between the two was clear. In one message, Carmela stated, Last night wasn't something small, Heather. I have to make appointments with a cardiologist and was doing various tests all night.
Okay.
I thank God for my mom being there. She's the only one who will ever have my back and care about me.
That's a fact.
I would have never not been by your side. I don't ever in this lifetime want to speak to you again. Goodbye.
Damn.
Apparently, Carmela had faced an unexpected illness the previous night and requested that Heather come to her aid, even though they'd been broken up. But seeing as she had a shift to attend, Heather was unable to make it.
Mm-hmm.
In response, Heather wrote, I had your back. I couldn't lose my job. I'm already so far behind in bills, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I have nobody to help me out or even be here for me. And you kept pushing away. I wanted to be there for you. I honestly did and still do. But I understand I cannot know what is going on if you do not talk to me. But please do continue to take everything out on me. Following the breakup, Heather also texted her friend, Jerry Avalos, on April 8th, saying, I deactivated Facebook and all other social media. Literally never talked to my friends. Couldn't even have a friend. She wouldn't allow it.
Uh-huh.
It's a clear red flag when a partner tries to control who the other person can talk to or be friends with. It's important to remember that Heather was upset about the breakup when she sent this message. And it's possible that Carmela has a very different viewpoint on their relationship.
Okay.
When officers recovered Heather's body, they also discovered a shocking handwritten letter in the vehicle. It was one of passion and rage, each sentence more intense than the last.
What is it?
Unfortunately, it's unknown what was written.
What?
But every single word had been directed
What
at
you mean
Heather,
it's unknown what was
almost
written?
as if they wanted to hurt her.
Oh.
To no surprise, the penman had been none other than her scorned ex-girlfriend.
Oh, they don't know.
But this wasn't the only relationship that seemed to be falling apart for Heather, as additional text showcased an obscene message from her brother, Josh Fiesel. Heather had recently failed one of her nursing exams, and Josh added to the upsetting occasion. He wrote, too stupid to pass the LPN exam, and called her a demeaning name. He also texted, low expectations of yourself, typical trash like your mom and dad.
I ain't gonna lie, I would expect some nonsense from a nigga named Josh Fiesel, bro. Shut your ass, nigga.
Josh's cruelty towards Heather was no secret to their friends and family. But could he have gone so far as to take her life?
This is just some weirdo,
well, the
bro.
lead detective on the case, Sean O'Connell, had his eyes set on uncovering the answer to this very question.
All right, Sean O'Connell.
However, as we will soon come to learn, his methods were far from the ordinary.
Why you just did that?
No one could have predicted the scandal that was about to unravel.
Far from ordinary.
Despite the varying fights with Carmela and Josh, it wouldn't take long before they were dismissed as potential suspects.
Okay.
As the hunt for the killer continued, Detective O'Connell quickly located a new person of interest. Tenants had reportedly told the detective that they had seen Heather frequently visiting Building 240 of the Somerton Apartments.
240.
Well before her body was found in the parking lot. It was believed that she would allegedly purchase marijuana from an unknown resident of the complex.
What is that?
When this information was discovered, Detective O'Connell began to dig and eventually found his new lead suspect, 24-year-old Kiona Bohr, thanks to a complaint filed against her by another occupant. It alleged that the scent of marijuana was emanating from her apartment. Kiona, a mother of two, was supposedly very nervous while speaking with police after Heather's body was discovered. And Detective O'Connell found this to be rather odd.
Okay.
Though she denied any involvement, O'Connell wasn't convinced. Despite this, following her discussion with the authorities, Kiona wrote a series of strange Facebook posts,
Strange in what way?
especially under the given circumstances. I can't believe this just happened, and doing 8 to 10 years for murder and pleading insanity could be seen amongst her account, only furthering the detective's suspicions. Not only this, but according to 2 residents of the Somerton Apartments, Kiona was allegedly seen wearing the same red Mickey Mouse t-shirt that Heather's body had been dressed in, well before the tragic event. And lastly, Kiona had been romantically involved with 39-year-old Julian Kaiser, who Detective O'Connell helped to put behind bars for 10 years on a first drug offense. It seemed that the evidence against Kiona was beginning to mount. 4 days after Heather's body was recovered, Kiona was interviewed by Detective O'Connell, and as you're about to see, the tension in the room was so thick it could have been cut with a knife.
What if somebody actually
Do you know
does
that
that?
name by
Like,
chance?
they
Heather
just cut the
Bogle?
room with the.
I don't
Okay.
even know who she is. The only time I heard of her was when the police knocked on the door, and then I didn't even know who she was. I was like, I don't know her. And then I went inside and got on my Facebook, and I seen her on Facebook.
Obviously, for one reason or another, her vehicle ends up at the Hickory Street Apartments parked in front of your building 240. The question is, why did it end up there?
That's a good question.
So we've talked to a lot of people, and we are comfortable to say that Heather has been known to frequent building 240. We feel comfortable that she was voluntarily there, probably on Thursday of last week.
Okay.
A couple different times. She was there, then her vehicle had left, and the vehicle had come back, and then the vehicle leaves, and then it finally comes back for the last time on Friday morning and around 1:30. Okay,
So why am I here, though?
and I'm getting to
Yeah,
that
like
point.
you taking a long time though,
It's
detective. I ain't
my
gonna lie to you.
understanding that Heather likes to
I'm
smoke
almost
some
falling
weed.
asleep. Like, why you
Okay,
telling me?
she does it on probably on a somewhat of a regular basis. She has to buy it from somebody. We know that we've had complaints on your particular apartment in reference the odor of marijuana coming from it from one time or another that led to the police knocking on your door and trying to figure out.
Police have never came to my door. If the police came to my door, they better have a report. The police never knocked on my door.
There is a police report.
They talked to me. They
There's a
spoke
police
to me.
report on March 18th. Without going back and looking at their police report, I'm not going to say that they talked to you or not, but I know there is a police report, and there are incidents reports with management pertaining to the smell of marijuana coming from your apartment.
So why hasn't anybody said anything to me previously?
I don't
My
know.
landlord, the
That's a good
police.
question.
That's
I guess
real
we-
sketchy because yesterday a white man came up to me and asked me, were you the one that they had got in trouble for smoking weed? It was smelling like weed in the hallway? And I said, no, that wasn't me. I don't even smoke weed. And he said, well, I do every now and then, whoop whoop, trying to get me to say something. So it was probably him that tried to call y'all. This is so
Possible. I mean, it's
this
possible.
is crazy. Like, y'all just raided my house. I work at a nursing home. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. Like, this is crazy.
I understand.
Kiona comes across as quite self-assured.
She does, I ain't gonna lie.
When
She-
someone is telling the truth, they may appear more confident because they know the facts are on their side.
Yeah.
The detective should have built some kind of relationship with her prior to starting into questions about
Yeah.
Heather.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie.
Essentially, what he has done here is without any evidence whatsoever.
Accused
he
her.
has launched into an interrogation rather than conduct an actual interview first.
Facts.
It's my understanding, and another thing that kind of supports what we're looking at is the idea that you are or have dated a guy from Mississippi that used to work at Whirlpool, correct?
Who would say that?
Well,
I never dated anybody. Just because I talked to somebody, like,
all right. So you talked to somebody, you associate
they're not even
yourself.
here. They've been left months and months and months ago. So,
Okay, what's months and months and months ago?
like months ago when they went home, we was never dating.
Who's the 2 guys that keep coming and going out of your apartment?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
How does it matter? My personal
Because
business, I don't
Your
know this
personal
girl.
business is not becoming our business.
Okay, so who I sleep with is y'all business.
No.
Like, I mean, that's what I do. That's all I'm doing. So that doesn't have anything to do with this. That's what I'm saying. That
Well,
don't.
these are the questions that we're going to ask, and these are the questions we're asking.
Okay, well, I mean, if I need a lawyer, I can get a lawyer, but
up
I
to you.
don't.
You can.
I mean,
You-
I'm just
you're not
saying.
you're not charged with anything.
We're
You're not under
investigating a
arrest.
homicide. If we can tie your apartment into a homicide
You
investigation.
can't tie my apartment. You can.
Maybe not. I don't.
I know you can't.
Well,
I
we're
don't
just-
even know this girl, so I know
But
for
that's-
100% you can't.
Apparently, 2 different men had visited Kiona at her apartment on various occasions in the recent past.
You good?
Omar Satchel and Kari Jeffrey. It wasn't long before Detective O'Connell considered them additional suspects in Heather's gruesome murder.
Damn.
And soon, we will see exactly why that was.
Why?
But this is the thing. That's why we're asking. That's why we're asking the questions. And if
Right,
you tell
but
us
you
that-
guys just raided my apartment. You know, yesterday when I went to my house and got that paper, my neighbors ran for me. Like, I'm out here killing people. Like, y'all just ruined my life over this because I smoked some weed. Like, this crazy.
Okay, we had probable cause to search your apartment.
Okay, that's fine, but I'm just saying, like, that's.
right.
I never seen this girl in my life. Don't
Okay,
know this
maybe
girl,
you have,
nothing.
but maybe those who you associate yourself with have.
Maybe people they associate themselves with. Did you talk to the previous neighbors that lived
Why are you being
there?
so reluctant on wanting to tell us who you
Because
associate
y'all
with?
just raided my house and took my baby daddy to prison for 11
You
years.
know what
Y'all
it
think
sounds like to me, Kiona? It sounds like
What?
you're withholding information.
No, it
to a
sounds like
homicide.
this is ridiculous.
There is an
I
important
ain't gonna lie.
distinction here with Kiona talking about getting a lawyer. She didn't unequivocally ask to speak with a lawyer, which is why the officer continued talking to her. If this case were to go to trial, Kiona's attorneys could have argued that this should have been interpreted as a request for counsel. But it's not incumbent upon police to clarify statements, and they don't have to stop an interrogation if a suspect makes an ambiguous statement about requesting counsel.
Yeah, true.
This
true.
means that the burden of clearly invoking the right rests with the suspect. It's also important to note that though Kiona is being questioned by officers, she was free to leave at any time and was neither detained nor under arrest, which means that the Miranda requirements are not in play here. It also appears that the officer was allowing emotion to control him. It's apparent he did little to build rapport with Kiona, and the major example of this is by accusing her of having something to hide. The most important aspect of Reed is to effectively have officers be viewed as advocates,
Yeah.
possibly even allies, rather than as adversaries. Instead, the officer should have engaged in asking more open-ended questions, rather than throwing multiple accusations at Kiona. By failing to
Stop licking me! You gotta look at say hi to the tribe. Say hi to the tribe. What's happening? Goodbye.
The most important aspect of Reed is to effectively have officers be viewed as advocates, possibly even allies, rather than as adversaries.
Yeah.
Instead, the officer should have engaged in asking more open-ended
He's
questions,
definitely not doing that.
rather than throwing multiple accusations at Kiona. By failing to literally be curious and invite Kiona to tell her story, the officer instead made judgments which shut down further discourse and didn't do anything to win her over.
Just made your
It's not
job way
uncommon
harder,
to see
cuz.
officers become frustrated during an interview or interrogation for a number of reasons. However, a much better strategy is to show the suspect a way out of the mess they find themselves in. This way out is generally couched as "the truth will set you free." Most of the time,
Cliche
it won't
ass
set them
quote.
physically free, but it can be a means to unload a burden via telling officers the truth.
Man said it won't set you physically free.
Physically free, but it can be a means to unload a burden via telling officers the truth.
Yeah.
In these circumstances, officers emphasize remaining open and non-accusatory, even when presenting facts that contradict previous statements. This allows the conversation to continue.
Y'all just ruined my life for some little.
Hey, we didn't ruin
This
anybody's
ain't little, it's a
life.
homicide.
I mean, but I don't know anything
Well,
about it. But
that's
this is what I'm.
Apparently you
talking
do
about.
because you're not telling us who your boyfriends are.
I don't
So-
have boyfriends.
Then who are the guys that keep coming
It
and
doesn't-
going?
I don't know.
It does matter because we're talking about a homicide.
I mean, if I'm, am I being charged with something? Am I getting arrested?
Not yet.
Okay then. I mean, I can get a lawyer and come back.
If you want to get a lawyer, go get a lawyer. That just tells me you got something to hide.
I don't have anything to hide, but I
Apparently
know
you do
how
because
y'all
you feel the
are.
need. Oh, how are we?
I don't.
Because we got your boyfriend fathered your baby with a bunch of dope and he's
Right.
been a doper for his whole entire life.
Okay.
We're in the wrong.
So
for
that's
that?
why you raided my house.
No, that's not
probably,
why.
That's probably
because you
why.
had marijuana in your house.
But you didn't know that?
Yeah, we did. We
How'd
had
you know
reason to
that?
believe it.
You had reason to believe that because somebody
Yeah,
said
we
that.
had probable cause. and
Because
Jeff
someone
Thompson
said they smelled odor, never been in my house, never talked to me. The police didn't come to my door.
Probable cause always sounded a little iffy to
See
me.
if they're.
So if you're a police officer and you hear somebody scream inside, like, the house that you're about to knock on the door of, and there was a report that there was a disturbance at that crib, you can enter. That's probable cause. But what if when you enter, it's just some dude and some shorty really banging it out, like they going stupid? As a police officer, do you get reprimanded, or are you just like, oh, my fault, and then you just dip? So because I ensure the law, I can break the law to ensure the law. What?
They smelled odor, never been in my house, never talked to me. The police didn't come to my door and see if there was marijuana.
Your
odor coming out
association
my
with
house.
Julian Kaiser when
He's
you were
been in
living
prison
there?
for how long?
I don't care. You're still
It doesn't-
associated with
so
Julian
I'm associated
Kaiser.
with the
All
somebody
right,
that's
you
in
know what?
prison.
Do you want to talk or not?
I don't want to talk.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
You're now
Have a
involved in a
great day.
homicide investigation.
Have a great day.
Bro,
The
stop.
detectives may be misinterpreting Kiona's reluctance to share the names of the two men. She's likely trying to protect her friends, but that does not mean they are guilty.
Facts.
It's also extremely manipulative for the detective to tell her that by asking for a lawyer, she had something to hide, when in
Right.
actuality, he was just irritated that she was making a smart decision for herself. Nonetheless, the unrelenting pressure from the detectives left all parties in a state of frustration. But Kiona was living a real-life nightmare,
How so?
suspected of murder, and was now in a fight for her life.
Oh.
After the troubling interview, authorities were looking into the possibility of charging 3 people with the crime as they began to investigate Omar and Kayri. Omar, who had previously served prison time for home invasion and firearm charges, had allegedly sold marijuana to Heather, as reported by O'Connell, although this has never been confirmed.
Yeah, where's his evidence?
When police finally spoke with Omar, he supposedly admitted to having stolen a .380 caliber firearm from his fiancée, but claimed to have sold the gun to a resident living in Michigan not long after.
What?
Along with this, authorities allegedly found him to be in possession of unidentified pills and a pocket knife with a blonde strand of hair attached. In an interview with the Fremont News Messenger, Omar adamantly denied that he had ever met or known Heather, gravely pleading for his innocence. In a shocking quote, he described his encounter with Detective O'Connell by saying that, "Sean O'Connell told me I know it's not you, but I'll make it you."
Hey,
Of
what?
course, the detective would deny having ever uttered the threat, but the truth of the matter remains up in the air. Be that as it may, later actions by O'Connell that you'll soon learn of might have you drawing your own conclusions.
I ain't gonna lie, O'Connell, you
Omar
real
also
suspicious,
stated that
nigga.
during the days of April 8th through the
My
10th,
fault.
when Heather was missing, he was residing at the Days Inn Hotel.
You seem
At
cool
the
so
time
far,
of Heather's
Omar.
murder, he claimed to have been visiting 3 separate bars in the Fremont area. However, it has also been reported that he was actually hiding at Kiona's apartment in an attempt to evade an arrest warrant. Despite this, O'Connell was still extremely skeptical and supposedly insinuated that Omar could have still traveled from the various locations to commit the crime. Still, his focus shifted to his final suspect, 26-year-old Kayri. As a supposed friend of Omar's, Kayri was just as much on Detective O'Connell's radar, and he would do anything to prove their guilt. According to a source, Kayri was apparently seen throwing a suspicious black bag into a river on April 10, 2015, presumably containing a firearm. O'Connell asserted that the supposed gun was used in a homicide, potentially Heather's, and quickly released a full dive team to recover the weapon. But to O'Connell's dismay, the search would prove to be unsuccessful. Claiming that Kiona, Omar, and Kayri were likely the murderers, the detective was still missing one important piece of information: the motive.
Yeah, like, why would they do this?
Why would any of them want to hurt Heather, let alone kill her? Not even O'Connell could say, but suddenly, in the blink of an eye, another disappointment abruptly struck the desperate detective, and it would send the case in an entirely different direction.
Okay, what?
Underneath Heather's fingernails was a small amount of DNA.
Whoa.
The results were shocking, concluding that neither Kiona, Omar, or Kayri had come back as a positive match. In an instant, their names were cleared. At least, that's what should have happened. Instead, O'Connell stuck to his original claims, not stopping to even ponder the possibility that he might have been wrong.
You can just do
But
that?
his delusions would only lead him further away from the actual killer. This just goes to show how
You can just ignore evidence? What?
detectives can sometimes develop tunnel vision and narrow in on a suspect, while ignoring other possibilities, despite sufficient evidence. O'Connell had already spent a lot of time on the premise that Kiona, Omar, and Kayri were involved in Heather's death. He may have been afraid that if he admitted his mistake, he would look incompetent to both the public and to other members of law enforcement.
I mean...
In addition, he was likely experiencing a psychological principle known as confirmation bias.
What?
This means that people are more likely to accept information that supports what they already believe,
yeah.
and, on the other hand, may discount information that doesn't align with those beliefs. With this in mind, just over a year later, Kiona is demanding answers.
What you mean?
I just want to know when y'all are going to tell her that I'm not involved in this and I can clear my...
She's saying she knows that her DNA won't come back. It's at what point do we say?
What point are you going to tell me that I'm not explaining?
For a year, the detective would
I was about to
supposedly
say,
harass
a
Kiona,
year?
frequenting her place of work with additional officers. At one point, he apparently gathered Kiona's co-workers for a meeting, although the subject of the matter has never been reported.
What?
It wouldn't be too long before the single mother found herself out of work
That's
while
weird.
struggling to make ends meet.
It's very weird.
Every job interview for a new position was to no avail, and it seemed that O'Connell was never going to let her out of his grasp. These were likely acts of intimidation on O'Connell's part, which is a form of manipulation. He may have believed that he could scare Kiona into confessing, which would have been coercion.
That just pissed me off.
Yet, after
like,
securing a lawyer, Kiona was able to restrict her contact with the detective, but that wouldn't stop O'Connell from allegedly speaking with her acquaintances. In an interview with the Sandusky Register, Kiona recalled a time when she traveled to her
Sandusky
local
Register.
tattoo artist and was startled to learn that after she left the establishment, Detective O'Connell had allegedly made his way in to speak with the artist. Other accounts recall that the detective apparently had residents of the Somerton apartments act as informants for the investigation,
That's crazy,
hoping
bro.
to gain more details on Kiona.
Nigga, that's so
I'm not
much
here to say that he
funding
didn't do it,
wasted.
but I'm not here to say that he didn't do it.
Okay, but I know for a fact that you guys got my DNA back and there's no matches. I know for a fact that you guys went through my phone record, there's no matches. I know for a fact that y'all been looking at my Facebook.
Okay.
There's nothing. I know that.
Kiona's suspicious Facebook posts, as previously described, had actually been in response to Julian's prison sentence. And not only this, but she had never been in possession of the Mickey Mouse shirt found on Heather.
Oh, wow.
Regardless of these revelations,
wow.
the detective pressed on.
You can just
Yeah, it
continue
is what it
to...
is. If you're not involved, then you're not involved. You know?
Okay, so when you gonna clear me though, because me and my kids
I
are
when we're comfortable to be able to say for sure that it's not you.
This reign of terror would
What?
eventually come crashing down. In an attempt to seek an indictment, O'Connell had written a report to the prosecution, but failed to include that the DNA found on Heather did not match any of the three. With this, he refrained from giving all of his case files to the county prosecutor and dismissed every other lead, besides those relating to the trio.
Nigga, this is
He even ignored a
incompetency at its
critical piece of
highest
information sent in
level.
an email by a Whirlpool employee just 2 days after Heather was found.
Sean.
It read, "And by the way, I don't know if you have any suspects, but I know someone who works at Whirlpool that is very capable of doing that to a woman."
Nigga, what?
This crucial lead would eventually become integral, but in his determination to convict Kiona, Omar, and Kayri, O'Connell did not even take it into consideration.
You wouldn't take...
However,
What?
this would not go unnoticed.
Who would notice it?
Soon, O'Connell was caught giving a copy of the investigation report to an employee working for the Sandusky County Department of
Whoa.
Job and Family Services,
Interesting.
claiming that he wanted to gain their insight on a person of interest in the case. Once this was discovered by the sheriff, the detective was immediately placed on leave,
Oh,
but it only took a week to uncover the extent of his malpractice. As a result, the detective was quickly let go from his position and was facing an increasing amount of legal charges,
damn.
which included misleading a public official and tampering with evidence.
Damn.
O'Connell had broken the law that he vowed to protect and was eventually sentenced to 2 years in prison.
2
Although
years?
this would not be the end of the shocking corruption, seeing as how another scandal had just as quickly broken through the walls of this quiet and quaint little town.
This man literally ruined...
Sheriff Kyle Overmeyer, also working on Heather's case, had been caught stealing drugs from the drug take-back boxes in northwestern Ohio. Facing an ongoing opioid addiction, Kyle was sentenced to 4 years in prison in
Damn.
December of 2016. But during this time, he was able to sit down with authorities to give his side of the story on what happened with former Detective O'Connell.
We'll get into more on Sean about what he did, but a lot of stuff was secret squirrel with him, and he did his own thing, and I entrusted in him as a detective, and because you can't do it all, you can't be a detective and a sheriff and wear all the hats.
He was dead set on Kiana Boer, and then he found out that Omar might have been out.
Was hiding out there. He was there that night supposedly, and there was a warrant for his arrest. And that's where it all unraveled, where he became obsessed.
Why is that?
I don't know.
See, now here's another thing I've been told.
Yeah.
That he had a personal vendetta against Kiana Boer.
Kyle gives a brief rundown on how O'Connell helped to imprison Kiona's ex-boyfriend, Julian, and why that might have placed the single mother at the top of his suspect list in Heather's case.
Now, in speaking to Heather's family members and Carmela Badillo, they all indicated
fault, y'all. I'm really
that the
locked
3
in.
people that provided Heather her drugs were, and then was the other.
Oh,
there's no 3.
I
Nobody
thought-
ever mentioned Keanu Bohr.
Right.
So I don't know
Yeah.
how he's getting in and going Keanu Bohr,
And
he's making that up. Then.
right. And
Correct?
Yes.
All the while, residents across the community were stumped when it came to who might have carried out such a gruesome crime.
Yeah, who?
And some were inclined to leave their thoughts on the most popular social media
Did they
platform,
ever figure out
Facebook.
who actually did
One
it?
user wrote a post insinuating that Carmela, Heather's ex-girlfriend, may actually be the one that authorities were looking for. The sad thing about this is just a few days after it happened, my brother worked with a guy who no longer works there with him, but he stopped over and told me his sister and Heather had a thing and that she might have had something to do with it. I called O'Connell to report what I was told at the time, but nothing was done.
Damn.
Was Heather's
Damn,
ex-girlfriend the perpetrator who'd been hiding in plain sight? Or was there someone else sneakily going unnoticed? Still, others had their own opinions. One person even stated that he knew more about the situation than most. A lot of time and dedication was lost, and I have proof. I want it done right. I had to bring up a perfected parliament to do what I did and walk it through like a gentleman. Most eerie of all, this person was well aware that corruption was lurking.
Yo.
I trust very few when the problem goes all the way to the top. In addition to the online chatter, others took their concerns directly to authorities. One account in particular stood out. Michael Abdu, a resident of Fremont, Ohio,
This
was in
nigga
a
look like
frantic rush to give a statement on an alleged conversation that had taken place at a nearby bar.
This nigga look like he chew on cigarettes, bro.
A statement on an alleged conversation that had taken place at a nearby bar.
Colonel, please, do you have an emergency?
I'll be over there in about 10 minutes to give you information about the woman that was murdered over there in Clyde.
Michael claims that he met 3 men at the local bar, where one had allegedly explained to him that he ordered the hit on Heather.
Whoa.
Michael
what?
refers to this man as Mississippi. 2 other gentlemen had also been present, but he didn't know their names.
They informed me how they killed her in the residence and took her body and put it in the trunk of the car. He said if you got any family, I suggest you do the right thing. I said, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then he said, I was the person that took care of the white girl over in Clyde. The black man said this. And I said to him, what are you talking about? What do you mean you took care of the white girl over in Clyde? He said, I asked the 2 dudes inside, we took care of business. So I went and asked the 2 guys inside, hey, the dude said you guys took, I said Mississippi said you guys took care of those 2, or took care of the girl over there in Clyde. And he said, yeah, we gave that what she deserved. The one dude turned to the other guy and said, shut the fuck up. The other one then said, dude's cool. Whatever you gotta say, I'm cool with, I'm not, gonna go nowhere.
Michael, clearly stunned by the recent encounter, provided a new lead for the authorities. However, just as quickly, police were able to conclude that they'd reached a dead end yet again,
What way?
due to the fact that his story couldn't be corroborated by other patrons of the bar.
Damn.
It was clear that from the onset of Heather's case, each and every day had been afflicted by injustice. Fortunately, that wouldn't last for long.
Yes,
The day had
please,
finally
like,
come
find
where a
who,
new
bro,
sheriff
who
was in
did
town,
this?
determined to track down the real killer with
Bro.
no time to waste.
An actual new sheriff?
Sheriff Chris Hilton quickly dismissed the previous suspects, along with Carmela.
Good job,
and
Chris.
soon enough, He'd also pinpointed exactly where Heather had been following her last shift at Whirlpool.
Nice.
Through her Gmail account, authorities were able to see her movements throughout the entire day of April 9th.
What?
Thanks to the several electronic coordinates kept in Google's GPS function.
That's crazy.
This indicated that around 6:30 in the
Hey,
morning,
yo.
Heather had been at a trailer park home in the Emerald Estates lot, a little over
forgot
a
about
mile
this.
away from Whirlpool. She remained there for at least an hour before her phone had apparently
guess I
been
can put it
shut
back up there.
off. The residence was that of 44-year-old Daniel Myers,
Who the hell?
one of Heather's co-workers at Whirlpool. The authorities were able to speak with Daniel on May 24th, 2017, over 2 years after Heather's disappearance.
Damn.
How you doing, Dan?
Damn.
Hey, Nick Katsopoulos with the Sheriff's Office. Would you be able to take a few minutes and talk to us?
For what reason?
It took them almost 2 years to narrow down the list of suspects.
Well, we're working a cold case homicide.
Do you still work for Whirlpool right now then?
Yeah.
Okay. Back then, what shift were you working?
Midnights.
Back then, did you tell them what this is in reference to?
I told him we're working an old homicide.
come on in.
Are you sure?
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Sorry to wake you up. I feel bad.
We're just trying to, like I said, follow up on some leads and some other stuff that popped up. Did you know her at all?
Very, very little. Very little. Just
The officers have not mentioned Heather's name, yet Daniel is already aware of who they are speaking of.
very limited conversation. Like, I guess if you want to know how long I knew her, maybe 3 months, but how long I talked to her, maybe a couple weeks. And you don't get long breaks at Whirlpool. So,
Right.
it's like pee, eat within 10 minutes for first break. And it was very limited chit chat.
Sure. So, and just so we're on the same page of who we're talking about,
Right.
Heather Bogle, right?
Right.
Okay.
She's the only one that-
Did you work in the same area as her?
Yes.
Okay.
Daniel claims that he and Heather had never talked outside of work and primarily discussed their children while they were on their breaks at Whirlpool.
She was just a sweetheart. She was very concerned about her kid, worked hard. She was always sweeping whenever she wasn't doing it. She was, it was sad. I guess it's a little odd that, you guys are.
Well, here's what
I know it's cold case and you guys are just, grasping at straws trying.
We want to try our best.
Right.
And a part of what we've been doing when we interview people, we've been collecting DNA buccal swabs. It's basically a Q-tip. This is a little thing, and then we're off on our way. Would you be all right with that?
There's no reason why I would have to do something.
Oh, you don't have to. No, this is part of.
If there's an issue, I'll get an attorney or something. I didn't know really the lady or anything like that, but
He did it.
No,
He did it.
No,
He lit.
nobody's saying
He did
that.
it.
This is just part of being thorough in what we're doing.
I'll pass until there's some issues to where, I'll get my attorney and see what he has to say. But,
He did it.
I'm going to pass on that.
The detective is trying to make Daniel more comfortable by mentioning how they ask everyone to provide a DNA test so that he will be more inclined to agree. And while every single person had supposedly agreed to the buccal swab, Daniel is the first to say no. But there was a good reason behind his unwillingness to provide a sample.
Why?
2 days later, authorities went knocking on his door once again.
We need to follow up a little bit more in regard to that.
All right.
Because you came off work that morning, right?
Right.
Okay. And there was nobody else in your trailer at that time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There was nobody else living but you at that time.
No.
And then Heather was down in the area.
Well, I don't know. How would I know that she's down?
Well, you're at the trailer and she's at the trailer. So that's what we need to get cleared up. And we know this.
She wasn't in my trailer. There is no way she was in my
She
trailer.
was in your trailer.
Okay, well then you're going to have to show whatever that she was there.
The first time he says she wasn't in my trailer, Daniel ends with upward inflection, as though asking a question, not making a statement. The second time he says it more forcefully. It's almost like he had to ask it as a question first, so he could repeat it to deny it. We know people struggle with outright lies, so this was likely a way to handle his nerves when deceiving the detective. Someone who is wrongfully accused of something is more likely to deny it using a firm tone of voice. An innocent person may even become a bit hostile.
Facts.
However, Daniel gives
I'd
a
have been
quick
kind of upset.
and
Like,
weak
nigga, what are you
denial.
talking about?
And not
She
only
was
is
not
his
here,
evasive
bro.
response more than a little worrisome,
That's what I'm saying,
but
bro.
Daniel
He
was
did
also
it.
hiding a mountain of disturbing secrets, and his true atrocities were about to be
Yo,
revealed.
these glitches.
Because I just don't know what
You know Heather better than what you're telling us.
No, I did not know Heather that well. I didn't.
He's
There
lying.
is no way. I don't know anything about her.
I didn't.
Just a basic conversation that we had when we sat for a very limited break. That's all it was.
You know what her car looked like, right?
Yeah, I knew what it looked. No, I didn't know what it looked like. I knew from the news, from online, Facebook. I mean, there's pictures from that's on the Facebook about the car when, going by Miller's, there was a vision of a car. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's common knowledge. I mean, even the news was showing her vehicle, but I've never seen her vehicle personally.
We didn't draw your name out of a hat and show up at your door.
Okay.
So we're here asking you to help yourself out. Let us know what happened.
Detectives are taught to never reveal to suspects what they know, and in addition, they want to give off the impression that they know more than they do.
Facts.
This accomplishes multiple things.
Like what? Talk
For
to me.
one, it allows officers to catch suspects in a lie. And two, suspects are left wondering how much police know. They may believe that police do know more than they actually do, which makes it more likely that they will let something slip. The officers further explain to Daniel that they are well aware of his involvement, but they want to hear from him just how that came to be, and more so, what exactly happened on that fateful day.
She was never at your trailer before.
No.
Never.
No.
Okay.
There's nothing for me to tell you.
Daniel maintains that Heather was never at his trailer. However, he does give some information relating to what he discussed with her on April 9th at work that day.
Information like.
After failing her nursing exam, she was already feeling down on herself, but the cruel text she received from her brother had only worsened these emotions.
Understandable.
When Heather saw the message from Josh around 3:44 a.m., Daniel was supposedly the shoulder that she would cry on. He states that nothing more happened, but as police would soon learn, this
Like, look at the way he's grinning, bro. You could tell he's a shiesty nigga. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't like that at all.
couldn't be further from the
I
truth.
don't like that at all.
Following the intense confrontation,
He's very, like-
they informed Daniel that there is a warrant for his trailer in addition to his DNA. From here on out, Daniel would be unable to hide the monstrous lie that was masked behind his seemingly normal facade.
What the fuck?
However, what you're about to see is more shocking than you could ever imagine. Taking a closer look, authorities were stunned to learn that Daniel had apparently mourned the loss of Heather. He attended her funeral and signed the registry book thereafter to pay his respects, even going out of his way to donate $125 to the GoFundMe account of Heather's family.
That's kind of sick.
Writing a now disturbing message. Heather, you were such an amazing person. Although we've only known one another for a short time, I've come to appreciate our talks about our kids. I'm distraught that there will be no more of your smile at work. You will always be in my thoughts. Your daughter will always be in my prayers. God bless you, little Missy.
This nigga's
Danny
sick.
and Ethan Myers. Apparently, he had also posted to Facebook that he was unable to eat or sleep due to the frightening situation. Daniel likely enjoyed inserting himself into Heather's world this way. He may have felt a secret thrill at the funeral, playing the part of a grieving co-worker, all while relishing in the fact that he was the only one who knew the truth.
This man secretly nibbles on plastic, bro.
What happened to her? In addition,
Look at him, bro.
he may
I
have believed
hate
that
his
staying
face.
close to the situation
so
would make him appear
stupid.
less suspicious. But as the investigation continued, it was quite clear to police that things weren't adding up.
In what way?
Just 5 days after Heather was found, Daniel had purchased new plywood flooring for his home, and at the end of the month, a new mattress. Along with this, over a year later, he made a trip to the local dentist to repair a set of cracked and broken teeth.
Because Heather
But
was
the reason
fighting.
for the dental visit would be anything but typical. Several other purchases were also discovered, such as materials to repair a deck, lawn chemicals, light bulbs, galvanized nails, and paint. But this could all be explained away, even though a new revelation was far more difficult to rationalize. A warrant had finally been obtained to perform a DNA test on Daniel, and it concluded that the sample from underneath Heather's fingernails was a complete match to that of her coworker. Over 2 years later, the truth of the devastating matter
This nigga
would
thought he was
finally
getting away
be
with that shit for
revealed.
2 years? No!
When police officially searched Daniel's trailer, the findings were unsettling, to say the least.
Talk to me.
Upon entering the residence, investigators found various adult toys, surveillance equipment, a Dell laptop, disposable cameras, handcuffs, jewelry, wear, and a Samsung Galaxy cell phone.
Why you had to mention?
Furthermore, they located
out of all the whoa, was it her Samsung Galaxy cell phone?
Several red and brown stains on the bottom of Daniel's carpet. A sample taken from the rug would later come back positive for blood.
Jesus.
Not only that, but Daniel had been keeping videotapes documenting his encounters with women and had bizarrely Googled nursing textbooks online.
What the hell?
In addition, GPS locations from Daniel's truck uncovered that he had frequently driven by Heather's house between the months of March and April of 2015, and had even made his way to the Somerton apartments on one occasion. But once the horrific event took place, his travels around these specific locations came to a sudden halt. This could suggest that Daniel was obsessed with Heather and stalking her.
I like
but
that
at some
picture
point,
they got
his
up there.
behavior escalated.
Idiot, you look stupid.
It's possible that if Heather discovered that he was following her and she confronted him, he may have lashed out. Alternatively, he may have expressed interest in her and she rejected him, which made him angry.
Yeah.
On top of this, there was also alleged evidence that Daniel may even be connected to more than one crime.
What?
On June 1st, 2017, 2 years after Heather's horrendous murder, Daniel was finally taken into custody. One of the investigators asked the other officer to remove the handcuffs from Daniel and instead handcuffs him to a hardpoint in the interrogation room. It seems as though the officers aren't comfortable at this point to completely uncuff him.
You were told you were under arrest, correct? Okay. No Miranda rights at all. Okay. So nobody's spoken to you yet. That's what we're going to do this right now. Right. All right. You are under arrest. And that, I heard the deputy tell you that when we were out there.
No, he's not.
Okay. And he said that, but he didn't tell you anything else.
Right.
Okay. We're here to tell you this is in connection with the Heather Bola hunt. Okay.
The officer reads Daniel his Miranda rights, and he quickly requests an attorney.
Damn.
Although he still answers one question.
What is your passcode for your cell phone?
I had about a week. Can I write it down?
Yes.
Passcodes to cellular phones are protected under the Fifth Amendment in some jurisdictions, and the contents of a phone are generally protected under the Fourth Amendment. In all likelihood, Daniel just waived some very important...
Yo, Jesus, my dog just scared the shit out of me, bro. Peggy, come here. Yo, I ain't gonna lie, I was finna literally... You were gonna die. Detective that was accusing those 3 innocent people, dude's in jail now. He served 2 years. I know, it should have been way longer. Now, it's this dude named Daniel Myers. Don't lick me, you literally eat poop. Stop that right now, okay? Okay. Daniel Myers, I'm sorry, is this boring you? Hey, look at me when excuse me.
By voluntarily giving up his passcode and consenting to a search of his device. You should never give up a phone, its passcode, or its contents without a warrant.
Facts.
Even then, good counsel will attempt to have this warrant overturned, or the admission of evidence obtained via the warrant excluded from evidence.
Yeah.
By surrendering these rights, officers no longer need to develop probable cause to obtain a warrant in the first place. This essentially allows them to go on what attorneys call a fishing expedition, where they might find evidence of a crime, but may also find additional evidence linking a suspect to other previously unknown or undiscovered crimes. Waiving these rights places the suspect in greater jeopardy from this perspective.
True.
Assuming the case goes to trial, the suspect has harmed their case by freely offering additional and possibly incriminating evidence to the prosecution.
Anything can and will be used against you.
You get situated in, you let me know. We'll sit down with you and your attorney. I think you got a story to tell.
And it was quite the story. Following his arrest, 10 other women had come forward, claiming that they had been assault victims of none other than Daniel himself.
What?
And while incarcerated, the suspect had attempted to regain contact with many of his alleged victims by writing handwritten letters. Although in a conversation from jail, he learns that this may not be a possibility with at least one woman.
Did you get a chance to go see what the address was? He said she does not want anything to do with you. Oh, well, how does that then? Talked to her about 3 weeks ago. Huh? Well, why didn't you mention something to me? Because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Well, it don't hurt my feelings. I just wanted to send her a card, but... And she said, don't, because if you do, she'll get you for harassment. I mean, a lot of these women that you want to, you're trying to contact, they're scared of you. Right? You know, I don't know, Danny. I don't know what you want us to do. Right, well, enough said.
In one of the letters Daniel wrote, so many emotions
yeah, what is he
in one,
talking about?
not
like...
sure why I'm writing now. First off, I guess you really didn't know me after all. I was never violent with you. You enjoyed my forcefulness, you told me many times, almost instructed me on what to do. You always told me you liked to be held down. Maybe your memory wasn't as good as mine. Although it hasn't been documented if Daniel was ever diagnosed, people with antisocial personality disorder often engage in this sort of emotional manipulation of their victims.
This nigga is sick.
They will attempt to persuade the victim into believing that they were at fault for the abusive actions.
Like, bro, what?
They're highly skilled at making victims doubt their own sanity along with their own memory of events. As Daniel is...
This man literally walks to somebody, stabs him in his stomach, and he's like, but you told me to do that. What? You said you like getting stabbed in the stomach. You said you like that. Why are you mad at me? I ain't do nothing but did what you wanted me to do. What?
People with antisocial personality disorder often engage in this sort of emotional manipulation of their victims. They will attempt to persuade the victim into believing that they were at fault for the abusive actions. They're highly skilled at making victims doubt their own sanity along with their own memory of events, as Daniel is doing here with this letter. This is called gaslighting.
Yes.
In this case, he doesn't want anyone testifying against him, and he can't try to scare them into submission from his cell. So he needs to use his words to manipulate them into thinking they are wrong about what happened. And as we hear from one of Daniel's supposed acquaintances, Danny Fry, the horrifying nature of the suspected killer was confirmed even further.
What did Danny Fry say?
The whole time I've known him, he's been a womanizer, you know. It's his way or, you know, no way. And I know at one time, and this was, sure, God, it had been at least 20 years ago, that I believe a girl had to put a restraining order on him because he was stalking her.
Damn.
Danny's descriptions of the accused murderer is an excellent depiction of a person with antisocial personality disorder. These individuals will often put their needs first and have little to no concern for the needs and feelings of others. This is how people like Daniel are able to commit such horrific crimes. In fact, people with severe antisocial personality sometimes derive pleasure from seeing the pain of their victim, physical or emotional. Many of these individuals are considered sadistic for this reason.
Yeah.
He was dating her, and she broke up with him, and he couldn't let it go.
This is because individuals with antisocial personality disorder don't consider the feelings or desires of the other person. They function in pursuit of what they want, and only what they want. Additionally, these individuals often have an inflated sense of self. Many of them think so highly of themselves that it is to the point of delusion. This can often cause them to become very vindictive and even aggressive if a love interest or romantic partner rejects them.
He was married to a girl named Kimberly at one time, and I guess she didn't tell me until here a while back that he used to be abusive to her, too. And then he was also married to a Bobby girl at one time.
How many times did he get married?
He was abusive.
Daniel and Bobby had a daughter together named Tabitha. On March 28, 2018, she sat down with detectives to give chilling details on the horrors that she encountered as a child, all thanks to her father. Supposedly, when she would visit Daniel every other week, seeing as he and Bobby were no longer together, Daniel would always have a new woman at the house while acting out his violent fantasies. To no surprise, the women were allegedly under Daniel's rule, whereas he would punish them if he didn't approve of their behavior.
Like,
he would reportedly grab the woman by her clothes or hair and take them to his bedroom. Once the door closed, Tabitha could supposedly hear the blood-curdling screams coming from inside of the torture chamber.
What?
It was something that she would never forget.
When he dated, you know, he was dominant. You know, they done what he told them to.
No first-hand knowledge or witnessing anything like that.
No, I've never seen him physically hit a woman or nothing, you know, just what they've told me and, you know, things like that.
Okay. And then
I don't know if my sister told you, but she had told me, I think it was beginning of the summer or whatever, that he tried to handcuff her to a chair. He paid her to come clean his trailer, and he tried to handcuff her to a chair.
Okay.
Wow.
You know, I mean, she did have bruises on her, you know, her wrist and stuff.
He also claims that Daniel would use derogatory terms when referring to his girlfriends,
Just a random
basically
piece of
to
info
the point of
give up,
dehumanization.
okay.
This suggests that Daniel may have had a paraphilia-related mental disorder known as sadism, where an individual gains satisfaction when causing pain or fear in their partner.
Mm-hmm.
On top of this, psychopathy and sadism are linked, although the cause of this is unknown. But as we creep a little further down this twisted path,
Yo, these
we learn
glitches,
that Daniel's
bro.
crimes were darker, and there's a chance that Heather wasn't his only victim.
What?
Did you know Leanne Sluter?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, there was about 5 or 6 years there that me and him didn't talk because my house got broken into, and some people told me that it was him because they seen him walking from behind my house that night.
Leanne Sluter, a girlfriend of Daniel's from years earlier and the mother of his child, Ethan Meyer, had tragically taken her own life back in 2009. Or at least, that's what authorities concluded based on her sudden death. But others believe that to be an utter and complete lie, especially Leanne's sister, Lori Ann Haley.
Did he kill
In
her?
2009, Daniel had apparently walked into Leanne's home, finding her lifeless body resting on the bed with a single .22 caliber rifle gunshot wound to her chest.
I brought my son home to his mom because we had the weekend deal, and I was here like an hour ago, and she answered the door. I'm like, well, maybe she's in the shower. So I went back home. Well, I had a key to get her home, and I came in, and she said, I need someone to come out here ASAP.
When someone starts telling an elaborate story during a 911 call, this is a major red flag for deception. Most people who find a dead body would request help right away.
He's told
and then
the
answer
story
pertinent
first.
questions that the operator may have.
You're just saying
rather
it
than
first,
delivering a monologue
so you don't
about how they
forget.
came to find the scene. It already sounds like he's potentially building up an alibi. But the barrel of the firearm had been exceedingly long, and the trigger would have potentially been too far to pull had it been facing towards Leanne. Not only that, but the gun was resting quite neatly beside her, almost as if someone else had placed it there after committing the ultimate crime.
She didn't
However,
kill
there was
herself.
also a note supposedly written by Leanne that Daniel had kept hidden away.
Bleep out suicide.
Part of it reads, I have loved you unconditionally without waiver, and all you ever did was use me as a bank, kick me to the side when the next best thing came along. All I ever wanted was to just die so that the hurt would stop. The note had supposedly been written in Leanne's handwriting, as reported by authorities. But even if the note did come from Leanne, there's no way to know that she did so of her own volition.
True.
Given Daniel's
Very
behavior
true.
toward other women,
I think
it's
he was just
likely
thinking
that he
about-
treated her in a similar manner.
Yeah.
Authorities have maintained their original ruling to this very day, but many have suggested that a certain someone was actually behind her death all along.
This nigga is...
In addition, Daniel's brother, Stephen Myers, had written an alarming message on Facebook, indirectly admitting his siblings' guilt. I just wanted to say how truly sorry I am. I can't explain why my brother did this awful thing, but please don't look down on my family or myself. But we are all proven innocent until guilty. Not saying he is and not saying he's not. Only one person knows who did this horrifying crime. Despite previously not admitting what had happened to Heather, during his time in jail, Daniel had been spewing an inordinate amount of suspicious comments.
Like what?
This included a time where he'd been watching a TV show starring a female judge and supposedly claimed that he wanted to hurt the woman and rip her hair out, just as he did to someone else. With this, he apparently confessed to an inmate that Heather had traveled to his house after their shift on April 9th, 2015, where Daniel comforted her regarding the text sent by her brother, but then tried to initiate a romantic gesture towards her. In return, Heather began to laugh, sending Daniel into a rage. In an instant, Daniel supposedly overpowered Heather, trying to force her to submission. However, the young woman was much stronger than Daniel had imagined, and she was able to fight back, and even managed to knock a tooth from his mouth. He would later superglue the tooth back into place, according to his dental records. But sadly, Daniel was able to subdue his victim, handcuffing her wrists and tying her feet, all while beating her without any remorse. Eventually, he would end the young woman's life with 2 gunshots to the back, place her body in the trunk of her car, and drop the vehicle off at the Somerton Apartments.
Bro.
The truth had once and for all been uncovered, but the brutality of the murder forever remains one of the most shocking events in that small Ohio town. Yet this case doesn't end here.
Nigga, what?
On February 1st, 2019, within days of starting his trial, Daniel was found face down in his cell, prompting a medical emergency.
Whoa.
You doing all right, Dan?
I was just wishing for this nigga's butt to get taken in prison. What happened to him?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I had no sympathy. What?
Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
Nigga, are you, like, what's up? You dying or something?
What's going on? You got any pain anywhere?
Yeah, you're fine.
Just sit right there. Squad's
Get
gonna
the
come
hell
look
up,
at you.
buddy. We're gonna charge you, put you in a
As the
chair.
result of an unsuccessful attempt to take his own life, Daniel was transported to the nearest emergency room.
Why his belly
Yet
button
he
look
was
like that?
unable to escape the inevitable consequences of his evil crimes. Former Detective O'Connell, who almost put 3 innocent people away for life, was sentenced to 2 years in prison in September of 2018.
Weirdo.
But was eventually released in July of 2020, 2 months early.
Why?
Along with this, the former sheriff who also investigated Heather's case is currently out of prison and works as a drug rehab counselor, helping others to not make the same mistakes he made. In 2019, Heather's friends and family would finally receive the long-awaited justice.
Nah, man.
During his trial, Daniel apparently ignored everything,
Shouts out to,
doodling or
like-
writing the entire time, except the recap of the crime, which he listened to intently. Still, Daniel pled guilty to aggravated murder along with several other charges, ultimately avoiding the death penalty. He will spend the rest of his life in prison
Should've gave him the death
and
penalty.
will never have the chance to receive parole.
Just kill the nigga, bro. Literally, just kill the dude. Why are we keeping these niggas? And this could be because it's social media. It seems like there's a lot of Detective O'Connells in the police force, bro. Sickos, bro. Complete sickos. Alright, enough of me. No, seriously, enough of me. I'm gonna leave y'all be. This was your boy, Tribe Loui. Good day, good afternoon, good night, good evening, good morning, and most importantly, but unfortunately, goodbye, man. Goodbye. Gang, gang, gang. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I will see y'all tomorrow. It's the end. Leave a like and share it to your friends and your kin. When I post a video, I'm gonna need y'all to attend. Thank you for the view, but I ain't done with you. 2023, I'm about to be Jordan with the flu. Yeah, join the tribe. Yeah, join the tribe. I'm gonna need y'all to subscribe.